move on then. Balrampur Chini is the stock in focus. It posted a very weak set of Q1 earnings. Revenue slipped 2%. The profit after tax is down 80% versus last year. In more news, the centre has hiked sugarcane fair remunerative price, or FRP, for FY22-23 by 15 rupees per quintal, and the export policy for the season is also expected soon. To discuss this, we are joined by Pramod Patwari, CFO at India's largest sugar company, Balrampur Chini. Mr. Patwari, good morning. Thanks a lot for joining us. After your last quarter's numbers came out, there was this chatter whether the cyclicality factor is back. What else would explain this big decline in net profit? If you could explain that.
So, good morning, Anuj. I would say this as a cyclical, not as a cyclicality factor, but as a seasonality factor. So when a company loses cane to the extent of 16% in a particular crushing season, revenues as well as profitability are going to take a hit. So, but as a sector, we are seeing a lot of deleveraging is happening. Companies are making profit in spite of very high sugar production. Country is in a position to liquidate its surplus stock through export and diversion into ethanol. So the robust policies are in place, which is taking care of this surplus production through diversion into ethanol and exports. In our view, the cyclicality, the man-induced cyclicality is no more there.
That point is taken, but if you still look at the pure sugar business, there's been a fall of 22% quarter-on-quarter in your revenues. You continue to post losses on the EBIT front. There's a big loss actually of almost 56 crores. Just want to understand that, is this the expectation for the next couple of quarters as well? That purely the sugar business will continue to be loss-making, or any recovery is what you're expecting there?
Good morning, Sonia. So my point is still the same. Don't review the performance of the sugar company on a quarter-to-quarter basis, because there is a lot of variation in terms of production numbers. In Q1, we hardly get any production. In Q2, there is zero production. And the crushing begins sometime in the month of end October or November. So again, in the third quarter also, you will see merely 40 to 45 days of operation. It is only the fourth quarter wherein we get the full benefit of production, and thereby the production over fixed overheads as well as the production overheads gets fully absorbed. So if you continue to see the performance of a company, sugar company, on a quarter-to-quarter basis, you will notice a wide variation.
Oh, but the point here is, again, that brings the cyclicality factor, right, Mr. Patwari? Okay, maybe not quarter to quarter, but let's say for the full year then. What kind of earnings expectation should one have? I take the point that there could be seasonality. But year on year, from here on, what kind of earnings expectation should your shareholders have?
I would not like to give any future guidance on this, but to clear your point, on a full year basis, we don't see any loss in the sugar division.
No, you don't see any loss, but will the profit be lower than last year?
So again, it will tantamount to giving future guidance, Anuj. There will be profitability.
Okay, so I know what's happening on export front, Mr. Patwari, because there's clearly the new policy which will come out, but 2 or 3 points, right? Is export profit making now, given the price in the export market, or is domestic market sort of more reasonable? And what's your view on the policy itself?
So there is a lot of skepticism as far as the export policy is concerned because of the decision taken by the government a few months back. But I would not call that as putting any restriction or limit on the export. Rather, it is coming out of available for export. So we need to see what exactly is available for export. The government's thinking is very clear that they would like to have a 6 million ton of inventory at the close of the sugar season, that is 30th September, so that before the new sugar season or the new sugar hits the market for consumption, the existing demand can be filled. Now, as far as the next year's policy is concerned, I think maybe by end of this month or September, you will hear out something. In the past, we have seen the government has approached various methods. At some point in time, it was under OGR. At some point in time, it was under MAEQ. So government has seen the benefits or the outcome of both the methods. The kind of inventory which we are sitting at this point in time, which is 6 million ton, is one of the lowest in the recent history. So government would like to take a progressive approach on this after seeing the progress of the production in the ensuing sugar season.
Mr. Patwari, what about the ethanol business? What kind of growth? I mean, you may not want to give us any guidance, but how is the business doing at the moment? And what kind of growth do you see for the full year?
Yeah, we have said in the past also, our ongoing expansion program with respect to ethanol is underway, and it will be put to commercial production by end of November or maybe first week of December. After that, from fourth quarter onwards, we will have the capacity of 35 crore liters on an annual basis. So once we see the benefit of this entire 35 crores liter of ethanol for a full period, that is March 24, we are expecting ethanol division to contribute to the extent of around 35% in overall revenues.
35%. And in terms of profitability, how much will that contribute?
So again, the profitability will depend upon the transfer price of molasses. I'm not sure what would be the transfer price of molasses for BHAV going forward. But as far as the overall contribution of profitability from ethanol in the overall business of the company is concerned, it will be significantly higher from where we are today.
But Mr. Patwari, there's one school of thought which believes that, for a government which is facing so much inflation pressure and which has taken such extraordinary steps in terms of, if you look at the fuel products, the export duty or the windfall sort of gain tax, is ethanol going to be touched at some point? Or you think policy on that is fairly clear in terms of what kind of money you can make on ethanol?
As far as the ethanol prices are concerned, you will notice that these are announced on an annual basis. It is a function of FRP. If there is an increase in FRP, there will be a corresponding reflection of that in the ethanol prices, number one. Number two, the objective of ethanol policy is to sacrifice or convert the excess sugar into ethanol. So somewhere the prices at which we are selling sugar into the market will also decide the ethanol prices. So we don't see any risk of revisiting this ethanol pricing mechanism.
In that sense, what's your view on the recent FRP increase which has been announced? Do you think that's quite benign?
Yeah, that will get reflected in ethanol prices. And this FRP increase has nothing to do as such with the UP SAP. Though it is too early to have any view on the UP SAP. But if you see the conduct of the government in the last 6-7 years, in 2015-16, UP SAP was at 280 and currently it is at 340. So over a period of 7 years, we have seen an increase of 70 rupees, which is extremely rational.
All right, so that's on the business. Just wanted to ask you before we let you go, last year there was a buyback that the company did. Any kind of plans to do either a dividend or a buyback this year?
So again, this will be decided by the board of the directors at relevant point in time. But if you see the past performance of the Balrampur on this account, in last 4-5 years, we have been continuously doing the buyback as well as the dividend. But what will be the strategy going forward? Only board of directors can decide.